Hi, everyone. Good evening. So this is Jainy. I have been photographing birds very seriously for about 10 years now. So today I shall share with you some useful tips and the best practices that I follow when I make these pictures. So I am not going to much into technical details because there are many great professional photographers out there who can teach very well the technical aspects of this. But what I would suggest today, or I would mention today, is mostly from a very practical point of view in the field, like as and when we shoot the birds, what can we do? How do we go about it is what I would be presenting today. So why wildlife photography? As we all know, a picture speak 1,000 words, right? It's worth 1,000 words. So that is how it is. So these wildlife photographs and basically the visual imagery that it creates serves as a very powerful tool to augment several conservation efforts. Our images and basically the stories those images convey, they can make a very make a very big difference in a wider section of the society towards effective conservation measures. Usually people may be ignorant about the value of this, the wildlife around us, the nature around us. So the photographs, when they see it, that wow feeling, that impact it creates, could basically lead into several conservation efforts. And actually, historically, when we see many wildlife photographs have had a major influence in making categorical decisions to create several important areas of wildlife protection and also species documentation. Also, for millions of years, even in the case of Paleolithic dwellers, there are evidences that their cave walls are festooned with paintings, bird paintings, animal paintings, etc. Carvings, not paintings, carvings. So these are all proof that human beings have been always influenced by nature around us. Especially when we travel for photography, we come to know many things, and also the feeling of being there itself is very exhilarating. It connects us with nature. So like when we see a beautiful landscape, we will feel very happy. And when we see starry nights, we will feel very happy. So this is like, it's a part of us. So this is very important for us to connect with the nature around us. And like these images, like for example, this mandarin duck, so you feel the beauty of it. So that impact factor always help us to see more of it. The colors of nature, like you have all medley of colors out there when we look at the nature, whether it is animals, like they have stripes, patterns all over their body. So it's very important that we know about them, we get sensitized about them, so that we can preserve it for our next generation as well. So this is a bright red bird, the scarlet finch from Chopta, and it's a black-billed roller. See the colors which it's always a nature's palette in front of us. And I like this red start because of that berries and that ambience give a beautiful effect on us. It's very soothing to see such things. Also, about the equipment and practices, basically it is very important that we invest in a very decent kit, in a versatile kit, starting from wide angle lens to prime lens, depending upon what kind of shots we want. Say, for example, many wonderful photographers out there, they make excellent pictures using using wide angle lenses. So depending upon what we need, it's good to have a spread of kit. And for me, I do not click many wide angle the scape shots. So I don't use much wide angle lens. For me, it's very cumbersome to carry all lenses together, since I concentrate mostly on the bird photographs and the portrait and a little bit of habitat. I tend to use a 300 mm f2.8 and a 500 mm f4. So mostly I combine it with 1.4 TC or 2x TC just to get the range and per the situation. But irrespective of whichever lens we use, it's very important that we have a responsible approach towards the wildlife. Generally, we need to respect them, especially for photographing nesting birds. We need to exercise extreme caution because there might be chances that the parents might abandon the nest, leaving the fledglings or the eggs to just be destroyed. So, leaving out in the open for the predators to kind of take it. So that is how it is. So we need to always exercise caution. And another thing is that many a times photographers, including me, we tend to use a recorded playback calls. It's a very debated topic, so I don't want to get into much of it. But still, when we use the calls, a responsible users always ban the recorded playback. So we need to be careful, like where we are using, what we are using, and how we are using. So these are several factors which we need to keep in mind when we travel, especially in unexplored areas or places that are unknown to us. Skulker. So for me, I always think that from my experience, I understand that we need very fast lenses in the low light condition. So I use like a 300 to 0.8 f2.8 to shoot this fast moving birds. And another one is the white-browed tit warbler, a very beautiful bird, but the chances of it being perched is very, very minimal. So we have to be prepared for it. So I tend to use a smaller lens and a faster lens for this shot. Demoisal crane, it's a big bird. It doesn't fly off that easily. If we are comfortable, if we are careful in approaching it. But still, since it's a big bird, it's recommended to use a smaller lens so that we get some frame around it, some space around it. If I use 500, it could be so close. But you can basically use even that. But it depends upon what we need at that point of time. It's an ultramarine flycatcher. These flycatchers, they are basically known to frequent the same area. So if we are at a reasonable distance and wait, then there are high chances that we get a very good photograph. So in that case, we can probably use a long range lenses like 500 or like even with a 2x TC, I have clicked flycatcher images. So depending upon the situation, we can always use it. White-bellied minivet is another bird. It's not a very shy bird, so we can basically use long range and fast, like slower lenses or like big lenses. This was very far in the Nicobar Islands somewhere, so I had to basically use a 2x TC to get the reach. Black-necked crane. Although this is a big bird, I used a 500 because of the heat wave conditions usually we face in that part of the world, like Ladakh area. The pictures really tend to be hazy sometimes. So the reach help us to basically reduce the haze. So I try to use bigger long-range lenses to get in a reasonably clear photograph in that kind of situation. Teamwork, it is very important to make very good photographs. Even though I happen to be the person behind the camera, just pressing that shutter, still I would always think that's basically a teamwork, that favored that clicking of mine. Say, for example, it could be the best tour operator for that area who can give the best travel plan for you and also give you the best naturalist available with that with him or her. Then another point is a good local help who can basically accompany us because the person might be speaking the local language, and in case of any miscommunication, etc., this person can basically talk to them and sort out the situation. Then a very good birder friend or like photographer who can give you very good information about the particular bird in that particular season at that in that time. So that is very important because it helps us to simplify the entire process. If we are going for a technical, for a particular bird, then these information are very key because we have to really wait at certain place or like take a walk to reach the area. So all these things become very important. All these factors become very important in making these pictures. Then finally, I would like to mention about the naturalists who basically work along with us in every step. They put out the same amount of commitment and sincerity in the field along with us. So that is also a very important factor. For example, this tawny owl, I think my first visit to Dachigam was way back in 2010 when I found this owl first. So that time I was not a very, I was a very novice kind of birder. I was just a beginner. So I didn't know the importance of this species, the distribution of it, nothing for that matter. I knew about some birds. So I was looking for like some possible birds there, like the European beater, European roller, etc. But I completely didn't have any idea of this. So we were trekking down from the mountain when we saw this particular owl. But unfortunately, it was dark and I was not equipped for any night shots. So all I had to do was just to see it just a meter away from me and be content with it. And after that, I started searching for this when I came to know the importance of it, of course. And then I was not able to find it, even though like I tried many times over the years. Then finally, I had to take the help of a naturalist from Thattekad down south in Kerala to come along with me and shows, because the person is very good in night spotting the birds, the nocturnals especially. So he had to come along, and then the local person was also there. So this was like made in that kind of situation. Like that particular day also we had to search for about 3-4 hours to get this. So it's like over years, it's like a lot of effort had gone behind making this picture. Similarly, the Ceylon bay owl, it's a flagship species down in our subcontinent. And it's not also very easy to see unless and until we know the habitat very clearly. Even if you know the habitat, then also spotting is difficult. So there are many people who kind of help you to get what you want. So that's always, I always believe that teamwork is like the key of getting a good photograph. And this particular image was made possible with the help of the driver who took us to this particular area. So me and my naturalist, we were looking for the species, and we were not able to find it. And then suddenly the driver called us, and he tried to show that something is moving also, ma'am, that could be the bird, like that. So this is a very beautiful partridge, and it's very well camouflaged in that area in Sela Pass, especially in the month of December. It all looks like the same color, camouflage. So these birds will just look like some rolling stones. So a trained eye can help to find them. So this is attributed to that driver who spotted this bird. Then, as I mentioned a little bit along, preparation is everything. We need to know about our target species well in advance. We need to have a basic idea and understanding about it, like where is it found, first of all, and the habitat, and the kind of calls the bird might be making, whether it is a territorial call, whether it is a mating call. This familiarity is important. Then otherwise it's difficult for the birds as well as for us to get the frame what we want. And also an idea, as I mentioned, about the habitat. So, for example, the wren babblers, they are seen in a very thick forest thickets. So we need to be prepared for that. So we need to, if possible, we need to carry the best fast lens we have, because these are very fast moving birds. So if we know about the species, then it's easy for us to plan, to take the equipment we need to that particular spot. Black and orange flycatcher, very cute flycatcher, which we see in the Nilgiris and Munnar, etc., that mountain ranges. So their habitat is like thickets, but near very small rivulets, etc. So it's better for us to, so it helps us to look for the species in that kind of habitat. Then we should know about that the kingfishers, like the collared kingfisher, is basically a mangrove kind of species, coastal mangrove forest area, like brown-winged kingfisher also. It's not very common kingfisher, but in the forest of mangrove areas of Bhidarkanika as well as Sundarbans. So these are the best areas to look for this species if we want it. So that background work is very important. And for pheasants basically are known to forage a particular area, and they are supposed to be responsive during the months of March through April, May. So if we want to get pheasants in our bird list or photographs, then we need to plan for that season where they are very responsive, and then we can kind of try to hear the calls or track the calls and then go behind it. And they are also supposed to be very active very early in the mornings as well as towards late in the evening. They try to come and forage near the end of the roads. If we are really lucky, most of the time, certain species we get it, but we need to be planned for that. We need to make sure that we are inside the car in a very good position to click that particular species, because pheasants are big, and if they are very close, because we might see them very so suddenly so close to us. So that time we need to be a little bit prepared. These are the possible scenarios. We need to be careful. The pheasant can appear, or like it could cross the road. So we need to have that kind of preparation in our mind, so that we do not miss the shot. Many of us missed the shot initially. During my earlier trips and all, I've missed many of these shots. So it is over time we will know how to position ourselves in the car also, where to sit, how the car should be stopped, so that we get an angle to get the photograph. So this is a grey peacock pheasant. It's a very beautiful bird, often heard than seen, and very, very difficult to make the photograph. So for this one, when I heard the call, I just anticipated that the bird would cross the road, because pheasants are known for that as well. Like late in the evening or early in the morning, they kind of feed and then cross the paths and go to the other side. So I anticipated that and then waited, and then indeed it crossed the road, and that is the path, and that is how I made this image after a long time. Earlier, always I had fleeting glimpses of this. Then another one is the Black Stragopan. This also is like very beautiful. So certain times in Mishmi Hills, where this shot was made in good season, we could get a very good shot of it if we are continuously in pursuit of this species. It might take time, but that is how it is. Chair pheasant, it's an endemic species, a very beautiful bird. So usually seen in the very high steep slopes of the Western Himalayas. So I was very, very happy to see this bird climbing up a rhododendron tree. And when I got this frame, I was very, very happy. Then similarly, Tibetan snowcock. This is a high altitude species, and they are also seen in like passes in Ladakh, say Kardungla or Taklangla or Warila in a certain time frame in the morning. So we need to know that, and we need to be there at that point of time. Otherwise, we miss the birds. Like when we see them, we see basically around 15 to 40 birds. I have counted up to 40 birds in one flock. So, but that seeing is the key thing. So we need to be prepared, and we need to be there when the birds move, and we need to stay put in the vehicle or whichever cover we have to get the shots. Similar is the case with the Himalayan snowcock. They're very beautiful birds, but if you miss the time and the season, then we may not be able to make the picture, and might be a worth of like years, which I had. For example, for this bird, I had taken years to photograph this. Lammergeier vulture. This is also a habitat is high mountains, and they are called the bone breakers. They have a unique habit of picking the bones from the carcass and then dropping it from top to the rocks, and then to break it into pieces and then feed it. So feed on them rather. So these kind of awareness, if you have about the species, it's easy to it makes our life easy to make a photograph. Similarly, golden eagle, it's one of the mightiest eagle in the high mountains. We can see them perch, for soaring up in the mountains, but very difficult to get a perched shot. So we need preparation, we need anticipation, we need to try several parts, several regions to look for them. So for me, this was also a lot of wait before I made this picture. The nuthatches, it's very amusing to see these nuthatches scaling up and down the tree trunks to look for the grubs and other insects. But we need to know the area where it can be seen. For example, white-cheeked nuthatch is not so very common, but it can be seen in many places like Narkanda or Chitkul. And also, unless and until we know the habitat, we will not be able to make a picture. Kashmir nuthatch, very important endemic nuthatch, had a real tough time to make this picture because they were not very common, and very few patches were were there for me to try for this species. So this was basically in February, made in February 2018, I think. And I was kind of lugging through knee-deep snow for this species. A beautiful pink-browed rosefinch. This is seen in the mountains in the western Himalayas mostly. So we need, as I told you, we need to know about the area where it can be seen. So the previous photographs of of birders or photographers really help us to pinpoint the location or to have an idea about the area where they are seen. Red-headed bullfinch. What I have noticed is that if they're not very shy birds, so if we are very quiet and sit in the vehicle or like at a reasonable distance, then we can see flocks of them feeding on particular on either flowers or buds or things like that. Black-throated parrotbills, these are very tiny birds, and the preferred habitat is always bamboo thickets. So, and they're very fast moving. So we need to, as I said earlier, we need to anticipate like the direction where they are moving. Okay, so then we can kind of pre-focus on some possible, branches which are out in the open and think that, okay, the bird might perch there and then sort of be prepared for it. And these are big hunting flocks of very tiny birds. So it's overwhelming to see all of them together. Initial days of birding in Northeast is like we do not know what we are clicking. That is the scenario. So, but over time we will get over it, and we will try to, we will be able to get better pictures. Andaman wood pigeon. It's a very important bird. It's a state bird of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and their population is declining because of hunting as well as habitat loss. So their preferred habitat, it is always coastal woodland forests. So we need to look for them. We need to be observant where they can be seen. So this, fortunately, we could see it from far. That is how I was able to make it. Otherwise, they tend to fly at any slight disturbance. Then this is it's a very unique bird. It's a primeval looking bird like from the prehistoric times. This is basically the only megapod which we can see in our Indian limits. They are known for their mound nests made of rotting vegetation and loose soil. So they use their feet, the pod, to, that is why it's called. So they use their feet to pull along the loose soil to make the mound nest. Sometimes, most of the time, they tend to reuse the nest during the subsequent breeding season. For me, there is a very important learning lesson here when I tried to click this bird. So first time when I tried to look for it, me, including my guide and several local helps, we were 4 or 5 of us trying to go and search for this bird. And we of course saw the mound nest, but we were not able to see the species at all. So then we came back. And the next time I went to the Great Nicobar again, I had my 500 with me. So that time when I was in that area where it was, it's the coastal forest area is their habitat. So I was waiting at behind certain trees and all to get some shots of it. And then I found out that it's a very, very shy species. So even though I was alone, it was sensing me right close to me. So it is so difficult if you are going in a group to get this bird, because they're very alert, they're very shy. And because of their drab color, and if you have bigger lenses, long range lenses, we will not be able to shoot it. So then I was not able to make any decent pictures that time as well. Then again, I went with the 300 f2.8 to make this image. This species face extinction because of predation. Monitor lizards are plenty in Great Nicobar and the other Central Nicobar Islands, and they prey on the eggs. And also, I had seen, when I was waiting for this species, I had seen a reticulated python across the mountain nest. So I was reasonably, I was at a real safe distance from the nest, but still the birds were very alert and very shy. Then this is a beach bird, but even though we say it's a beach bird, there's a lot of effort gone behind this picture for me, because we found out that it's only seen in very, very quiet beaches. That too not with a very long seashore and all, but with coral reefs. It need that coral kind of rocks and reef around the shore to have a very good camouflage. So this was like a lesson for me when I was searching for this bird. But once we see this bird, it's not very difficult to take a picture because they are quite obliging. And if we try to approach it slowly, they may give very good frames. This was very close for me. So I had a couple of sightings over a span of years in the same kind of habitat. And the birds were same obliging. So we need to know, and it makes our life much easier. For me to choose the bird guides or the naturalists, it's not a random approach. It's always a very thoughtful approach, because this is a very important factor. If the person whom we are going to bird with doesn't know the seriousness of what we are looking for, or how important that species is to us, then it's a very futile kind of attempt. So what I do is I try to interact with the guide beforehand, well before, and through our conversations, like about the habitat, about the behavior, etc., we will also come to know that person's knowledge about that particular bird. We may not be able to know the person's approach, but still we will get a very, very fair idea, and then we can prepare ourselves based on that. Because if the person doesn't know anything about that particular species, then we have to do extra homework from our part to get that species. Fortunately, I have always been very, very lucky with my bird guides, my naturalists, right from Kashmir down to Kanyakumari, literally. So they have always been very helpful and very knowledgeable. Another factor which I found is that when I tried to take a good naturalist from Thattekad to Northeast. He was the person who was traveling for the first time to Northeast. He didn't have much idea about the habitat or the calls, nothing. But because of his commitment and his sincerity and his, that urge to learn about new birds, he could actually figure out through. I have seen him reading the book and then figuring out this could be the area, this could be the habitat, etc. So it's not a must that the person really knows where exactly it is seen. That approach, that attitude is also very, very important when to choose the bird guides. So I always carefully choose the guides, because that's a very important factor. Otherwise, I cannot be at peace while birding, or when I try to look for the target species, I might be wasting my time. So it's very important for me. Nature always surprises us. We know we have to keep our eyes and ears open every time, observant while in the wild, because there are several sightings which have just surprised us. For me, this was one prime sighting, such prime sighting. You and attach. This we got when we were birding in Balong in Arunachal Pradesh. That these photographs, when we clicked that time, became very important in that. Those photographs were the first photographs of this particular species clicked from our Indian limits. So the species got added to the India checklist, and Balong became one of the prime birding destination for our birders in the country. So it just happened. I just happened to be there at the right time, at the right place. So it's the nature always surprises us. So be prepared for that. Similarly, in the same trip, this butterfly species, this was also new to the Indian subcontinent. So this also got added at that particular during that particular trip. Nicobar Scaup Sound. Although the studies were carried out about this species from Nicobar, I think I was one of the first birders to explore the Great Nicobar Archipelago. So there were no much information about the practical information about the species, like about much about its call or the habitat where it can be seen. So this was like a very surprise sighting for me and my guide Vikram Sheel from Port Blair. He was there with me, and when we were birding in the night, we used to find always time to bird in the night or to look for nocturnal species. That time we got this surprise sighting. And this was also one of the first few photographs of the species made that time. It was in 2014. Then wood pigeon, this is also not very easy species. So very surprise sighting. So we were looking for something else, and when we came down, we thought it's another bird species, another pigeon, and but we stopped the vehicle, and then we found out that that particular area is a beautiful habitat, and there was a whole congregation of these wood pigeons feeding in the farmland, the cultivated land below. So it's a very reliable area to see that species in the right time. So this is very important. How we approach our approach to birding, because they could come anywhere, right in front of our eyes anytime. So be prepared for that. The slow loris, we have two lorises in our country, the slender loris down in south, and this one is the eastern species. And this also we just found by chance. We were looking for nocturnals, and I had no idea this would be there, and it gave some very good photographs. So this species is vulnerable, and due to habitat loss, the population decline is due to habitat loss, fragmentation of the habitat, and also exotic pet trade, the traditional use in medicines, etc. So then going to nocturnal birding, as I mentioned a little while ago, I like to get the maximum out of our trip. So after the day birding, I try to look for the nocturnal species because it's very rewarding, especially in very unexplored areas. Many birders, many people who are into wildlife photography do that because it can be very, very rewarding. We might come across very many species that is like, in the night when they are very active. For example, like I told about Nicobar Scaup Sound, this is another one which we had no prior information. So we were going through the forest path, and when we heard this kind of squeaky call, and then we stopped the vehicle and searched for it and found the bird. So that is how things, the sightings happen while in the nature. But whether it's a bird or a mammal, responsible use of light source is very, very important. So these are very debated topics, whether we should use flashlight to shoot in the night, whether it could be disturbing for the species, etc. So I'm not going to get into it. But what I found practically is that if we do not use the light source, flashlight or camera flash directly into the eye, then probably we are at a good stage. What I mean is that we can always try to focus the light just below the eyes so that we get the species well lit up for the shutter to click. So I always try to do that. So responsible use of light is very much recommended while shooting in the night. This is a Hoxton's frogmouth. It's a very beautiful, very important species. When I made this picture, not particularly this picture, of this species actually, it was, I think, one of the first images of the male Hoxton's frogmouth from the northeast. Similarly, this was also a bonus sighting. We were looking for a owl species when we saw this bird perched very beautifully in a lower perch in front of us. Twitching birds. It's basically a British term. It's sort of like chasing birds, which are pre-located in the area, but of very rare birds. It's basically for not pre-located, previously located, I would say. So in the area, but of the rare birds. That means like, they could be stragglers or vagrants. So in pitching birds, I feel the networking with the birding community is very, very important, because otherwise we will not come to know. So if our friends or the birders let us know about that particular bird, especially if you do not have it, then it is very, very helpful for us to go in search of that bird. We can take a decision if they give regular updates. What I do is that I try to get in touch with the person who first saw the bird. The main reason being the person might be the local, might be a local person or a person who is frequently going to that area. So these people are, it could be a random birder as well, but still, when you take the probability, I think the local people, when they kind of bird in a particular area for longer time, they come with many surprises. So one of the very beautiful kind of twitching which I did was like for this fire throat. So I was birding in Western Himalayas when my friend from Delhi called me and informed me about this bird. So I was like, okay, should I go back to, I was going back to home in Banglore when I heard about this. Then fortunately, I could reschedule the ticket to Kolkata, and then had a 1.5 hours of journey. When my good friend from Kolkata helped me to arrange all that and reach this place to see this bird just for half an hour. So these are the crazy things which birders or photographers do sometimes to get what we want. Picture frames. I would say that, it's very important for us to have an idea about the bird or the frames in our mind when we see the bird. Many photographers have different approaches. They develop their own unique style, so they have their own way of approaching the birds. But for me, I always visualize. Many of them do that. Okay, we just pray that okay, this should come to this open perch or this beautiful flower, like that. It happens to all of us. So what I try to do is that I try to include those elements which are complementary to the subject itself. I do that. Then also, since we cannot tell the birds or the subject to move per our convenience, what we can do is that we can move here and there a bit to get the best background species, or very beautiful green background, or very beautifully graduated background, and also the best light on the subject. So moving light slightly here and there without disturbing so much the bird, without making so much of noise, would help us to make such frames. For example, if flowers are there, it's a different, unique touch to the entire frame. So I always try to include that. And for example, this one, I really like it's a very common bird, but I really liked the twinning of the bird with the seabuckthorn berries. So we can look for such opportunities in the wild when we try to make the images, and those images would be very unique, and like it's a blessing we get. So why not we make the best use of the situation. Another thing is that what I would like to say is, like, when we see a bird, the bird might be feeding, or it might be involved in certain activities, and they get alerted when we approach them. So, but if you stop and give it some time, then the bird might resort to going back what it was doing. So then give it some time and then approach it slowly, taking the cover of a boulder, or take the cover of a tree, or crouch yourself, and then make the approach like that. So when the bird is looking away from us, or like when it is busy in its own activities, it's easy for us to approach it and get the reach. So that is another point which we should try in the field. So there's a very beautiful frame with the flowers and the snowfall, etc. And this one, I thought the pink color of that sea flowers, it's a wild rose flower, complements well with the white of the head of the bunting. So these flowers are very important. Apparently, the Siachen Glacier got the name from this wild rose. They call it Sia. So we can look for such opportunities when we make a picture. A common rose finch. So the orangish, the scarlet red basically stands out against the green backdrop. This duck is not very rare, but to get this kind of frame is like probably very unique. It's like blighting snow that day when we were traveling from Dirang Valley to Tawang, when we saw this bird. It is like a tiny water puddle, but the birds were very obliging, and I sort of tried to get this image. It's one of my favorite image. Then this one also, like the reflection of the snow on the pink, it gives a unique touch to that frame. And this is just a black bird. It's a black bird indeed, literally. But when we have this background on the moss, it gives a different feeling altogether. It's quite appealing. Another thing is, like, as I said, habitat knowledge is very important, and also habitat shots are also very important. Like certain birds prefer like very thick, dark kind of habitat, and through our photographs we need to get that kind of sense across. So this is a like Watts Trogon, and was very, very happy to get that beautiful background, like darkish background, and a perfect mossy perch with the bird's color enhanced. And this one is, I think I had a 2x on my lens, and had a very narrow opening to click the bird. So that is how, through that opening, the slightest possible clearing when I clicked, I got that kind of painting effect. So it's nothing artificially done. It was as is. It is basically as shot. So sometimes this kind of habitat shots gives this kind of frames as well. It's a fire-tailed Mysornis, the mossy perch, And see, like I was mentioning about the habitat, see, when we see this shot, we will come to know about uh, the kind of habitat which they prefer. And so when we make shots, a perfect purchase, perfect background, perfect portrait always is good. But along with that, if we have the habitat shot, it adds to the portfolio of the images, as well as for us, it's a chance for us to learn as well how they are seen. So in case if you want to go for that bird again, we'll have a better idea. So, or anyone else who see your image will also get an idea that, okay, this is the kind of sort of habitat it is seen. This also was shot from a very narrow clearing, and that is how it gives that kind of hazy effect. A silver-breasted broadbill, parrotbill, a tiny picklet. This also is very common among the bamboo kind of habitat. So they prefer feeding along it. So if you hear the drumming sound, it's not very loud as the other woodpeckers. And then if you hear the drumming sound, okay, it is not so loud, but it is quite loud. So we can figure out that, okay, this could be around, and then try to look for it and make such friends. Another important point is that if you are trying to shoot shorebirds, like for example, like waders in the seashore, it's an open kind of scenario out there. So if we are like 4 or 5 birders together, or if we are in a group, it's always better to approach the bird single file, one behind the other. So I have observed that spooks the bird a little less. So that way the approach is faster. So we can approach very slowly, step by step, if we are single file, especially in the areas where we are going in a groups to find something. We are going in a group to find something, and suddenly when an interesting bird comes, then all of us would want to have that shot. So in those conditions, the best way to approach is single file. If you are spreading around in the shore, in that open space, the birds will locate us, and then we will never get a chance to approach the bird at a reasonable distance. So that is what important. Then the frames that conveys stories are very, very powerful. Say, for example, this kind of shots, we get an idea about what kind of drama might have happened there. So in this case, the vulture was trying to feed on the carcass there, and the crow was trying to mob it. So for such images, many good photographers they advise us to crop the pictures so close, so that you can basically get the feeling, the impact of it. So the tight crop would be a better idea to get that message conveyed. But it depends upon how we prefer to have it. Then this is another one spectacular drama which unfolded in front of me. This is the shot of a peregrine falcon with a chestnut-bellied sandgrouse kill. So as many of us might know, that this is one of the it's the fastest, not one of the, it's the fastest animal in the world. It can reach up to the speed of about 380 kilometers per hour, especially when it is stooping or skydiving. And that is their favorite kind of mode to attack a prey. So when I was on the lake bed watching, trying to get some shots of the sandgrouse coming to drink water. So the peregrine falcon basically dive bombed into the flock of the sandgrouse, caught one, decapitated it midair, and then shot past me. So I had the big lens with me with even a 2x converter in my camera. It was pretty heavy, but I got a very open space. I was standing, and the bird kind of started flying eye level to me, and so it gave a little bit advantage for me to try to focus. So that is how this image got focused. Otherwise, it is difficult to hold the lens and then focus on such high speeding bird. Then this is one another favorite frame of mine where you can see the frogmouth eyeing the prey. Then this one, a flock of wood swallows trying to catch insects in the slow drizzle. So I felt it's a very pleasing frame for me. So these kind of frames are unique, and it connects with the viewers faster. Then Mrs. Gold Sunbird flaunting all its colors in the mist. It was a sight to watch. Even though it was misty and sort of cloudy, it was like beautiful to see it. Another point which I would like to mention is about the safety and health. So we need to have an idea about the place where we are traveling to, about the local culture, and about the kind of people, whether they are sensitive to us carrying big guns in the sense camera, whether they are, they're like apprehensive. All these factors we have to know. So a local help or the guide will always be very a blessing in this kind of scenario. And when we go, we need to prepare for acclimatization. For example, if you go to very high altitude, it's more basically extreme conditions. If the conditions which we generally are not used to, then we have to carry the medicines in case of any emergency. We need to have some good phone numbers handy so that we get help. Then we need to prepare for acclimatization, as I said. Like, for example, if you fly into Leh, we are straightly flying into an altitude about 3,100 meters. So that is the oxygen is very less, and that condition is not very favorable for many of us. We are not used to it. So it is recommended that we take a couple of days there and acclimatize, hydrate ourselves properly, and try to take light food. All this sleep is very, very important. And also our fitness level. For high mountains, when we see a bird, we might have to walk a little bit or climb a mountain, or walk extensively through the jungle, especially carrying heavy equipment in hand. We need that kind of physical fitness. So we need to really train ourselves, especially for those people who really want to carry heavy equipment. The training is very important. So we can do probably workout for arms, for our hands, for our wrists. All these things are very important. And also we need to develop our own unique body posture and stability. So for example, it's very, as I've noticed, and many others also say, that keeping our feet a little bit apart in the field always gives a stability. And if you do not carry a tripod or any support for our camera, then carrying heavy lenses can be really, really troublesome. So, and the shake factor might come in. So we might have to hold the lens so close to our body so that the shake, the handshake effect can be minimized. So this is very important. Then, as I said, practice in the field is prime. So the good photographs we see of many photographers, including award-winning photographers, all are like, it's a lot of effort in the field. It doesn't come in a fortnight. It is just a lot of effort. We need to practice. It's directly proportional to the good photographs are generally directly proportional to the amount of time we spent in the field. If we are not able to get to exotic locations, we can always practice in in the local area, in the area we live in, and familiarize the exposure control or everything, whatever the exposure triangle, whatever mentioned in the technical terms, the ISO, the shutter speed, the aperture priority, all these things we need to practice with common birds. That is how we can develop that dexterity while in exotic location or while in any other unfamiliar locations. We might need a horizontal perch sometime, we might need a vertical angle sometime, so that dexterity in holding the equipment and while on the fly we have to change the camera settings. So there is no shortcut to it. I think I'm sure that many photographers also would agree, because birds will not give you much time, especially in the Northeast. It's very difficult. So we need to develop that kind of reflexes to get the best out in the field. For me, like I have practiced, it didn't come in one day or two. It's like a lot of years practice. I started definitely with a smaller lens, with 300 mm f4, so it was light, and then 100-400. So slowly I started hand holding. I mean, I always do handheld photography. I do not use tripod much, because not because I have any problem to it, but it's cumbersome for me to carry it. So I've started practicing with the smaller lens, and then it was easy for me to do to make the pictures with the bigger lenses. Now, for me, I would count this rain quail shot as very fluke shot. Very, very difficult to freeze quails in flight. I would consider it as a fluke shot, but still, I think that probably my reflexes would have helped. The training would have helped to just release the shutter at that particular moment. And similarly, like teals, and when for the flight birds, they might give you time or they might be very fast. So to get the focus on the eye comes out of practice only. So that is one thing which we have to develop. We have to put in that extra effort to get the pictures sharp. So when the birds in flight shots are very popular shots, and many people get impressed by that shots. So though I do not do much flight shots, I would like to do. It's very difficult for me to do, but still I try my level best to get the best picture possible. And this one, like the same peregrine falcon place, I was actually lying in the lake bed, near the lake bed, when the bird sort of descended. So that is how I was able to get this angle. So we need to figure out what works for us, what works best for us in the field. So this is unique, and this differs from people to people. So I have certain style of approaching the bird. Many other great photographers have their own style. So this is I think we need to develop our own style, which we are comfortable with. I think that is very important. We trying to emulate or somebody else's style may not be very comfortable in the long run. So we have different approach, So we need to find what best suits us. That is what I want to say. So this one is the stork was about to get airlifted and was trying to flap its wings. Then I got this bird, and this is a rufous bellied nail-thumb fanning its tail. So that reflexes are important to click at that right moment. So that's all from me right now. But to conclude, I think that we always have a responsibility to contribute to a very healthy avian population. When we are out in the field, we come to know several practical problems associated with conservation efforts. It's easy to say that, okay, we need to conserve it, we need to conserve that. It's very easy for us to use that term very loosely. But when we are in the area, when we see the local people, their lifestyle, their approach, then we get a better understanding. And then that helps us to put our word, to the birding fraternity or like any other people who are interested in wildlife. For example, many researchers who conducts research on the effects of feral dogs on the ground-dwelling birds or the breed or the birds which who lays eggs on the ground. They have tried to contact me because they had asked me like whether I have seen any birds have been being chased by feral dogs. If so, which bird have I seen? What time of the year? All this kind of information. So we have to be very genuine in giving those information to the people who really work hard to formulate a pattern. So they when they formulate or when they put together their work, it would reach the policymakers, and so that's a very important factor, which very very important contribution which we can make to the wildlife or towards us only, because ultimately we depend upon them. It's us. They make us. Without them, we are not there. Slowly. So this is very important factor. Then another thing is the economic benefit for the locals. So when we travel to a destination, then mostly all of us try to get the local vehicle, right? The local drivers, the local vehicle, the local homestays, because it works out cheaper for us as well as it's a benefit for them, and also local produce. So they also get an incentive to work towards the environment which they live in, and to protect that environment that live in, so that it's a continued income for them. So it's a financial inclusion also help to get to augment the conservation efforts. And above all this, personally, I would feel it's a very healthy outdoor activity for the participants. It's a lot of tranquility out there, peace, and like that exhilarating moments we see, and the moments when we share with our near and dear ones, with our friends, like, okay, I saw this bird in this habitat and this time. These are all like, it's a positive effect on everyone. So that is why being out there is very important, especially in these times. We really come to know what is the importance of being in the wild. How we basically we reconnect with our nature. So that is all from me. And before kind of winding up, I would like to acknowledge my friends or like the naturalists who've helped me to get a lot of birds. Without their help, it would have been really impossible, because each one of them had played their part. So we need to really recognize them, and my sincere thanks to all of them, and also to you all to be patient with this session and listening to me. Thank you all.